Hey, hello everyone. This is Natha Dempsey from the Food Service Packaging Institute. I will be your moderator today. You are attending, oh, there's Ashley. Surprise, I am not Ashley Elzinga. I am Natha Dempsey. I am FPI's president. I am pinch hitting for Ashley today, so bear with us here. You are watching a webinar about our resident messaging survey and some information on our resident messaging. Some housekeeping items for you. Our webinar is being recorded today, so please be aware of that. If that is something you are not willing or want to participate in, feel free to X out now. All of our attendees are on mute. You will not have the ability to use your microphone, but if you have a question, please submit it to the question and answer button. Use the Q&A button, not the chat. So all questions to Q&A, please. So a quick review of today's agenda. I am actually going to do your FPI introduction. Then we will move on to our resident messaging survey results, our best practices and tools, the community perspective, and then the MRF and hauler perspective. So just a quick introduction to the Food Service Packaging Institute. If you are not aware of who we are the trade association in North America that is focused on food service packaging. All we do is food service packaging, and our members are those folks who supply into the space, so raw material and machinery suppliers, and then those converters that manufacture things like cups and containers. We also do have a membership for our food service distributors and operators who also participate in the downstream. So when we're talking about food service packaging, what we are speaking of in this instance is going to be single-use food service items that you see on your screen. For the recovery part of our work, this is really cups, containers, boxes, and paper bags. Just so all of you are aware, these are our special interest groups that are focused on the recovery of food service packaging products. We have four. The Paper Recovery Alliance working on paper food service packaging items, the Plastics Recovery Group working on plastics recovery items, our Foam Recycling Coalition, which works specifically around polystyrene, and then our Paper Cup Alliance, which works specifically on the recycling of paper cups here in the US. Here is just a quick snapshot of all of our current recovery group members. Many names and familiar faces, I am sure. Just wanted to mention very briefly a quick mention of our approach. When we, the ultimate goal is to recover more food service packaging, to increase the recovery of food service packaging. And the best way to do that is through research components, those foundational pieces like what you're going to hear about today. And then also increasing access through our communities and our community partners. So you're kind of getting a 1-2 punch today. You're getting the foundational work, that survey and that report that came out of it, but also some real-time examples from our community and MRF and haulers. Here's just a quick example of other foundational work that we have done. This has been a long process for us, and it seems like every year we add more research components to that foundational work to help build that base for our community partnership work. So just a quick timeline of things for the last 11 years in front of you, and of course that resident messaging, the newest resident messaging piece of that is here in 2023. And of course, nothing is complete without an infographic showing you just a little snapshot of those types of pieces that we've been able to put together and just the general growth that we've had over the course of the last 11 years. And in fact, the biggest one to highlight, of course, is since 2017, when we began our community partnership program, just the growth that we've been able to see over the course of the last few years. So with that, I am going to turn over the webinar to Catherine Goodall. Catherine is here to talk about our resident messaging survey. Catherine is the managing principal and senior consultant at RRS with 23 years of experience in packaging, recovery, and sustainability. Within RRS, Catherine leads a team of consultants focused on private sector and public-private partnerships. There's a mouthful. She also leads the RRS project team that supports FPI in its work. So Catherine, I'm going to turn things over to you.
All right, thank you for the introduction. As Natha mentioned, FPI has a community partnership program, and that program has been successfully working to add cups, containers, and other items to residential programs since 2017. And as we developed that program, we did a lot of work to review what was already going on and what was being used in terms of best practices and messaging. We reviewed what some of the country's leading residential programs were doing, as well as what various industry groups working on recycling were doing to identify the best practices and how they communicated about recycling different materials. However, since a lot of them weren't focused on food service items specifically, we conducted a survey to test different terms, different images, layouts, and instructions to make sure that the educational materials we developed for our partnerships would be easy for residents to understand and would resonate with them. We focused on the most important things like language and graphics, as well as other things like how to keep contamination out of the bin, what types of language would be effective to get residents to make the right decision about whether an item should go in the bin or in the trash. And just a thing to note, the materials that we developed are available free of charge on the website for any communities to use. Next. So in our process of revisiting the survey last year, we wanted to update and expand on the 2016 survey and to look for changes since then, and also to understand how residents think about things that we weren't asking about at the time, like, for example, cups and containers and whether different items should go in the recycling bin. So we conducted an online survey of US residents 18 and older. We had over 1,000 respondents, and they're approximately representative of the US population, particularly in terms of age, housing status, but we looked at other categories such as race and education as well. And I'll call out housing because we did want to make sure that we had representation of both single family and multifamily housing due to the fact that these types of housing typically receive recycling services differently in the US. One other thing to mention is that although the survey had national reach, we did seek to ensure that roughly half of the respondents were residents of partner communities that had received FPI's messaging. Next. So I'll be presenting a few highlights from the survey. First, we asked how frequently residents set out their recyclables. And we did find that about 40% of them report that they recycle consistently, 14% never recycle, and 10% recycle infrequently. An interesting trend that we noticed was older respondents reporting more consistency in their behavior, whereas according to the responses, younger respondents may be more variable in their habits. Our takeaway here is there's a potential to improve behavior there and consistency of recycling by targeting them with messaging and tactics that will reach them and that will resonate with them. Next. So we asked where residents look first when they want to determine whether an item can be recycled. Nearly 2/3 of them look to the package first. Over half look at the symbol, a recycling symbol, and another 11% look at recycling instructions. The second single most popular approach is referring to information directly from their recycling program. And it's interesting to note that the responses here tracked the 2016 results extremely closely. There was really no significant change in habits here. We did see a couple of percentage points increase in the sort of when in doubt, throw it out response, which suggests that it may be having an impact as more communities adopt that sort of messaging. Another thing to note is that while the overall trend shows people are looking at the package first, keep in mind that in particular with regard to food service items, many of them do not meet the FTC criteria for unqualified claims. So the labeling that they see on the package may refer them back to their local program through phrases like check locally. So it does underscore for us the importance of clear and high quality and frequent messaging from local programs. Next. So we wanted to measure awareness of pizza box recycling acceptance using aluminum cans and PET bottles as a reference point, since they have very widespread, nearly universal acceptance in recycling programs. The results here show that both for cans and bottles, awareness is very high. So here we were asking the survey respondents whether the item was accepted in their local program. We were just asking them to answer based on the best of their knowledge. You can see in the thick blue bars that the awareness levels are very high, and the green shows uncertainty levels are very low. And if you hit next again, you'll see there are some thin blue lines there that indicate the residential access rates, or the rates of acceptance according to program messaging, based on some recent industry surveys. And that gives you an idea of kind of where residents should be aware that they can recycle the item, comparing those to the responses. Those first two items track pretty closely. Awareness doesn't lag the actual acceptance very much. With pizza boxes, by contrast, awareness levels are lower, and there's also a higher degree of uncertainty in green. And there's a greater gap between the thick blue line, which is awareness, and the thin blue line, which is acceptance. Pizza boxes, interestingly, enjoy a fairly high level of acceptance for recycling, but they've been the subject of a lot of campaigns focused on grease and food residue. And so, you see a lot of mixed messaging out there. Some messaging saying don't recycle them, and others saying do recycle them. And now that industry has worked to resolve a lot of those concerns, and they are widely accepted by paper mills, it points to an opportunity to communicate them more proactively as being accepted and increase the recovery. Next. So an interesting finding from several questions gives us some insights into how residents think about why an item is or isn't recyclable. We asked several questions about whether residents would put an item in the bin or not. And so the paper cup example, it was whether they would put it in the bin at home. And a couple of hypotheticals where we presented them with a sample program flyer and asked them to say whether they would put the item in the recycling bin based on the flyer instructions. The top reasons they cited for their decision. So we first asked them, would you recycle it or not? And then we asked a follow-up question as to why. And in that follow-up question, the top reasons that they cited were either related to a material or the combination of material and form. So with a paper cup, it was the material by a significant margin, both for those who said that they would recycle it, as well as those who said they would not. For the molded fiber drink carrier and for the plastic cup, both of which were based on the hypothetical scenario, they were citing material or a combination of material and form. So for example, they said it was similar to egg cartons, which were accepted, or it was considered a container, which was accepted. So they're drawing on both attributes of the material as well as the form. I think the takeaway for resident messaging is that utilizing the concept of material may be most effective, since it leverages the concept that residents already have in their minds when they're thinking about recycling. Next. So one more highlight from the study in looking at the responses to the question I mentioned previously, where the sample flyer was shown and the respondent was asked whether or not they would recycle the item. The results showed that a significant majority of respondents would take steps to prepare the cup for recycling, such as emptying it, and in some cases removing the lid. We also saw that, in the respondents from the community partnerships group, significantly fewer of them, by about 8 percentage points, would throw that cup in the recycling bin without emptying it. So more of them would take the steps that are requested to only recycle it after they had properly emptied the item. And that shows that our messaging around clean and empty is having an impact. So thank you, and now I will turn it back to you.
Thanks, Catherine. Next up, we have Maggie Orozco, who is a communications specialist with over 8 years of experience in the environmental field. As a part of her work with FPI's Community Partnership Program, Maggie develops strategic communication plans to educate residents about recycling practices. She coordinates the creation of outreach materials and identifies tactics to foster community engagement. So I will turn things over to Maggie.
Snatha. So we're going to be talking about the Community Partnership Program now. So we can go to the next slide. So overall, the goal of FPI is to develop these viable, sustainable recovery pathways to recover food service packaging. And so through that, the Community Partnership Program works to add, a suite of food service packaging to curbside recycling programs. And so the overall goal from that is to increase residential awareness and increase recovery, and reduce contamination. And so this is done through a communications grant provided by FPI. So it's at no cost to partners. FPI covers the cost of developing the graphics and setting up any ads or any other sort of tactics that we do. We really try to make this as easy as possible for our partners to roll out this messaging. So why do we focus on curbside collection? So part of the work that we've done is identifying that actually 2/3 of food service packaging is taken to go, and really only 1/3 is eaten and discarded at the store. So that's really why our focus is on curbside, because that's where most of it is discarded. So when we partner with a community, we like to make sure we're doing our due diligence and making sure that all stakeholders in the value chain are on board and are equipped to handle this change. So we work with the MRF to make sure they have the operational capabilities to accept the material, that there's an end market that's going to accept the material, that the haulers are on board, and that the community is involved. So we work with the director of public works or solid waste, whoever makes sense, to make sure that we're rolling it out effectively and not forgetting anybody in our planning. And then this is an overview of how the community partnership develops. So first we get together with community and we sign a memorandum of understanding, or an MOU, essentially just outlining the expectations of the partnership. What is FPI going to provide? What is a partner going to provide? On the other side, in terms of like data and assistance, do we need to make any sort of operational changes at the MRF? Then we'll address those. And then we'll develop a communications plan. So we identify tactics that would work for that specific community. We'll develop graphics, we'll set up ads, and then ultimately we're working towards a kickoff launch date. So sometimes we'll have an in-person event where it's either like a press conference or a MRF ribbon cutting, or maybe it's like an Earth Day event or other sustainability event that makes sense to kind of couple our launch event. And then that's when our messaging goes live. And then usually our campaigns run for about 2 months. And then throughout the entire throughout the entire campaign, we're measuring and benchmarking our progress. So we'll take a snapshot of how everything was before the campaign and then after that campaign. So looking at the MRF tonnage, residue, maybe we'll do a bale audit, and then also looking at things after the campaign. And then similarly on the communication side, we'll look at what was residential awareness like, what was their engagement, how did our ads do, things like that to kind of track and gauge the effectiveness of our campaign. So these are the partnerships that we've done so far. You can see here a few are in progress. We're trying to get some kicked off in Dallas. We have one queued up for Milwaukee, and we're trying to work with the city of Chicago as well. And we hope to continue to add more and expand our partnerships. So what exactly do our partners provide as part of this partnership? So we want to make sure, like I said, that we're working with everybody that we need to be working with. So providing us contacts for operations, communications, and then letting us know what sort of plan education you already have going on so we can piggyback off of that. Maybe there's already a campaign that you've done previously that we can mirror, so residents are already familiar with that sort of messaging and branding. If there's a tagline that you used in the past, so we can incorporate that into any of the graphics that we create for this campaign, making sure we have everybody needed to roll out effectively. And then ultimately, we would love for you to be referenced as a case study on our website and on webinars like these, so that we're able to get more partners and continue our work with other communities. And then in exchange, what FPI can provide. So as we mentioned, we've done a lot of foundational work, and so we have all of that available to communities to use now. So we're able to share that with you. We're able to provide technical assistance in terms of operational questions or end market dialogues. Sometimes you just kind of need to get those conversations going to make sure you can accept food service packaging, and so that's what we can help with. And of course, the communications planning and developing all of these graphics, flyers, and ads. So see, these are some of the examples of the resources that we have available on our website for communities, MRFs, and end markets. They're tailored for each of the audiences. You don't have to be a partner to access them. They're available on our website now at recyclefsp.org. And if we go to the next slide, one noteworthy thing we have is a resident education kit that's great for communities to use. So it compiles our survey results, messaging best practices. It has a customizable flyer that I'll show in a little bit that kind of adheres to the best practices that we've identified, and also has an amazing gallery of downloadable food service packaging images that's free to use. So you're able to kind of download that and add that to your existing flyer, or use the one that we have there. And then this is the general comms approach that we take when we work with a community. Like I said, we like to tailor everything for whatever would work with them, but this is the general approach that we like to do. So first and foremost, we want to update any information. So whether that's the website, a recycling flyer, or the waste wizard. So we want to add these items to the yes column and remove them from the no. And then our general messaging, as it's been mentioned, is clean and empty, right? No lids, stirrers, straws, wrappers, anything like that. And then we want to do some community outreach and get the word out. So we'll develop some branded social media posts, videos, and animations. We'll identify what sort of advertisements would work for that community. Maybe there's a magazine that circulates within the community that's very popular, so we can do some print advertisement, or the community has done some sort of like digital or outdoor ads that have worked really great in the past. So let's continue to do that. And then we want to leverage any networks that we can. So maybe there's a local sustainability group, or a local church group, or HOAs or block captains that the community has worked with in the past, that we can leverage their network to disseminate more of our campaign information. And then we want to get some media attention, so we always do a joint press release with FPI that the partner releases to local media. And like I said, we like to benchmark and track our progress along the way. So we'll do a pre and post campaign residential awareness survey, asking residents, would you put this in your bin? How would you prepare it? Very similar to the resident messaging national survey that was talked about, but this is on a regional level. And then we also look at those engagement metrics, looking at how did website activity change during the campaign, how was social media engagement, how many impressions did our ads get, and things like that. And then this is the template flyer that I referenced about 2 slides ago. So this is available for communities to use. It adheres to our best practices of grouping items by material type, really focusing on using more pictures and less words, so it's easier to digest for residents to understand. And as we work with communities, we're able to brand this for them, so we can switch out the colors and the fonts. If they have any sort of, like I said, taglines that they've used before, we can do that instead of saying it recycle more. We can even change the bin color so it matches whatever the community is using. And we have a few past partners on the webinar today, and they'll show you how we've rebranded some of these for them, so it's customized. And then I just want to share a few success stories from some of the few first few partnerships that we did in Chattanooga, Louisville, and DC. So you can see here that contamination decreased for food service packaging, while at the same time, the recovery of these fibers increased. And then at the same time, there was a lot of great engagement and increased web traffic. We even saw increases in cart and bin requests, a lot of impressions from the ads that we placed, and a lot of views from that video. So I think now our past partners will dive deeper into some of those specific tactics and graphics that we created.
Great, thanks, Maggie. As the waste reduction coordinator for the Athens-Clarke County Solid Waste Department, Denise Plemons' role centers around education and outreach programming, including working closely with schools, businesses, multifamily properties, and nonprofits. With over 20 years of marketing, service, and leadership experience in the nonprofit, private, and government sectors, she offers a multifaceted approach to waste reduction. Due to her diverse background, she has great dexterity when relating to a broad audience of people from varying ages, education levels, and occupations. So, Denise, off to you.
Thank you. I do want to say first that I have been impressed and appreciate the work that we've done with FPI and RS, that this was a great partnership with them. And so we'll just show what we were able to accomplish together, but it was so easy working with them, from getting the MRF and figuring out, we focused on cups. So getting that rolling with them and making sure the paper mill could accept everything was very easy. So we appreciated all their support through this. So I'm from Athens, Georgia, so hometown to the University of Georgia. So just a snapshot, just so you have a reference as to what our community is like. We have about 130,000 residents. That does include about 40,000 students, depending on if they took the survey or not, that they're included in that 130,000. So we do have a transient population, so messaging, of course, can be complicated. We do have a very low income population, so that also offers challenges, and we're the smallest county in Georgia. So just a little snapshot about Athens. So when RS and FPI reached out to us, we kind of developed a plan, and they reached out to us in 2020. So if you can think back to 2020 and the struggles that we had during that year. So our rollout came out in 2021 at the very beginning. So we had to think about what kind of event can we do so we can reach residents and help them get educated on what materials are changing, what can we accept now. And so I'll talk more about what our kickoff event was, and then our social media posts, working with RS and getting this messaging out. So here you can see the main graphic that we used. And like Maggie mentioned, it was tailored for us. So our hashtag was Recycle Right Athens. Our bins were green with a yellow lid. So they were able to customize this graphic and tailor it for Athens with our logo and our website. And it was easy peasy. They did it all for us. So it saved us a lot of time. So we use that for our social media as well as print marketing. And I'll show examples of what we did with those. So again, during COVID, so you can see us wearing our mask here. So our kickoff event couldn't do too much in-person things still at the beginning of 2021. So we did a drive-through. So again, we were focusing on cups. We have an amazing local roaster called Jittery Joe's that partnered with us for this event. They gave us free coffee. That's Charlie Mustard in the brown jacket there. And he is amazing. He supports a lot of our events. And when he saw that we were going to be recycling more stuff, he was like, how can I be involved? So we orchestrated this event where it was a drive-through, come and get a free cup of coffee, and then we'll share that you can recycle your cup now. And we also partnered with Coca-Cola, and they gave us free sodas. So if you still need caffeine, but you're not a coffee drinker, you could get a soda, or if there were any kids in the car. So it was a very successful event. We had a lot of cars come through. So you can't quite see it in this line here, but we had a table with our flyers and we gave away bags. But you can see the banner that we have there with that same messaging of you can now recycle cups, paper products. And then the pink flamingo is kind of a local celebrity that we invited her to come out just to have a little something fun. So you can't quite tell it in one of those pictures, but she plays the baritone and rides on a unicycle. So it was COVID and people were finally venturing out. So it was a great little event, even though it was just a drive-through, had, just few seconds so we could talk to people, give them handout, let them know that we can now recycle paper cups in Athens. So it was a pretty fun event. So with that, of course, Maggie also mentioned press releases. So with the event, as well as a press release, we did get a couple of news coverage. So our local Red and Black, which is the university paper, picked up the story, as well as Flagpole, which is our local free little magazine that is distributed at like the coffee shops and stuff. And then the university sustainable department also ran the story. So promoting, again, the partnership with Dirty Joe's. So we love that we were able to promote them as well, because we actually did use their orange cups when we were kind of doing trials at our MRF to see, can we capture the paper cups? The orange cup was super easy to be able to see that is getting sorted properly. So we highlighted that with the press releases as well. So it was great that these stories also help spread the word for us. And then RS also helped us with some social media posts. So again, you see consistent branding with the messaging. So using that same graphic, we boosted Facebook posts, received a lot of traction through those, using those same hashtags that led them back also to our website, so they could get more information about why now can we recycle paper cups and what does that mean? What else can we recycle in Athens? And the really cool GIF to get a little bit more attention was also designed through RS. And so again, this is a very easy process to get the information out there, and very clean. I love the design of it. And again, that it was customized for Athens. And then so through our Facebook post, we also, again, the Office of Sustainability at UGA shared that. Again, we have a great partnership with them. So as you can imagine, it can be challenging to get education out to students, but they are a large population here in Athens. So it was great for them to also share that message that paper cups can now be recycled, because there is recycling on campus as well as downtown. So it was great that they were also able to share that info. And then any opportunity that we had. So we actually installed new big bellies in our downtown area. And so again, there's Joe Dunlop with our department that he's got his Dirty Joe's cup, just a reminder of that, yes, you can now recycle your paper cups. So this wasn't just on paper cups. It was about that we have these great new big bellies, recycling bins downtown, but use that opportunity to, again, promote paper cup recycling. And then more of using that great marketing material. So we wrapped a few of our trucks. So this is our automated truck in the bottom left corner here that's going through all of our residential communities and picking up their recycling. So having that truck with the messaging about recycle right, and that you can now do your paper cups. And then in the middle there is our trailer that we take that out to events. And so again, continuing that message, we also had it stationed at a school for a little bit. And then the banner, so one of those retractable banners. So whenever we're out tabling at events, again, that same consistent messaging, clean and loose in your bin, and notice the yellow paper cup can also be recycled in Athens. So again, just the beautiful design that we were able to use in several different print marketing materials. So that's us here in Athens. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, but we really appreciated working with RRS, and it was, again, easy to work with them, and they did the heavy lifting for us, and we pretty much just had to connect them through our Facebook, and we got everything done. So thank y'all so much.
Okay, thanks, Denise. Next up, we have Robert. Robert Pickens is Vice President of Recycling for American Waste Control. He has been in the recycling industry for 38 years and has extensive experience in facility operations, business recycling programs, and residential curbside recycling programs. Robert lives in Tulsa and currently serves as board member on the Oklahoma Indian Nations chapter of the Solid Waste Association of North America. He is a recipient of the Keep Oklahoma Beautiful Lifetime Achievement Award for his contributions to recycling in Oklahoma. So, Robert, please take it away.
Thank you. We would like to thank RSS and FPI for their contribution for this opportunity. We had been accepting paper cups and other takeout containers since 2013, but we were very hesitant on launching it through our website and other social media areas. So we really took on when Maggie reached out to us. We were hesitant at first and had a lot of conversations back and forth, and we decided to take that plunge. Prior to that, what we would do is our MRF here in Tulsa has an observation and education room, and we would cover those items during tours. Also, if we had speaking events out in the public, we would cover those events and during those times and cover it. But we really did want to get it on our website and also in a lot of our posts out there and get Tulsans to recycle even more and divert. So we currently service 180,000 plus homes in the Tulsa metro area. And we pick up specifically at 3 communities in the Tulsa metro area, and the other communities bring their recyclables to our MRF here in Tulsa. Some of the challenges that we knew we would have moving over to this was going to be the stirs, the straws, and then styrofoam. So poor Maggie had to put up with me on numerous conversations with about packaging that takes on that same look as styrofoam. And we were very concerned that people may get confused with that message and go over. So we wanted to make sure that our graphics didn't have that mirroring effect of being styrofoam, because in a MRF, styrofoam can cause havoc. Next slide, please. So the styrofoam was one. Also, the organics. We are dealing with some organics already in the MRF, specifically towards pizza. We do accept pizza boxes, always have, but we do have some education content out there to empty the box out before placing it in the recycling bin or the recycling cart. And we also have over 500 bins throughout the Tulsa metro area that we provide free drop-off recycling service to Tulsans that do not have curbside available to them. So we wanted to make sure this program launched as well to those recyclers as well as the curbside recyclers. But organics was a concern of ours going into this. And it wasn't so much for the fluids, because we've noticed the only time we're running into fluids is usually with the pop and water bottles. Whenever we receive the cups in, we didn't have a problem with fluids from there, but it was going to be more as we got into showing some of the clamshell type items. We wanted to make sure they were clean and dry overall, and that message stood out. And RSS did a great job working with us on making sure that that message was communicated, as well as imagery towards not mirroring styrofoam was done as well. 95% of the recyclables that come to our MRF stay in the state of Oklahoma. We do promote to all of our marketplace and throughout the state that, Mr. MRF, and that's our education character, is here to service Oklahoma and for Oklahoma jobs. So most of the food service packaging that we see, takeout containers, is going to be paper. So we knew it was going to be a very good fit for us as far as making sure those items are going to stay in Oklahoma. And we've been promoting that to our customers for years and years now. And then on the container side of things, we have been also moving towards accepting the clamshell items, and that didn't bother us at all, moving towards that on imagery as well. Next slide, please. So part of what we wanted to do is make sure those images, again, paper products is what we are really wanting to focus on. The paper cup was obviously the main draw on our education from there, but we also wanted to make sure that our customers knew that they could toss in the paper clamshell items. And then also we wanted to make sure, we wanted to keep a simple message. So a lot of times it was stirs, straws, organics were out. And then also the wrap, the burger wrap, chicken wrap, taco wrap, liners that were in these containers, to toss those into the trash and making sure that that was a clear, precise message. And Maggie's group did a great job helping us get that message across. Next slide, please. We had coverage across our website, which is on the right. And prior to this, we only shown the 5 items that we accepted in our bins and cart programs. And then we added all of our takeout containers in that as well. So that when you click on our website, whether you're looking for a drop-off bin or what can go in your recycle cart, this would pop up. And then as you click on it, it would also bring up FAQs, get more specific information. On the left-hand side, this was one of the graphics that Maggie's group put together for us that we posted on Facebook, Instagram, and also we ran it through our website because our customers like to know if they're recycling some, what's it going to get turned into? Well, in this particular case, paper towels are real popular because Georgia Pacific operates a tissue mill right here, not far from our facility. So we wanted to make sure we were promoting the items that they're producing from the efforts that our customers are recycling with. Also, another thing with our program is we wanted to leave lids on. What we have noticed over the years is more of the lids have moved away from a number 6 PS or EPS lid over to a number 5 polypropylene lid. When it came to hot beverages, cold beverages, they're all PET. Well, we do accept polypropylene number 5 as part of our plastics. So we wanted to make sure that lid was going to be captured as well. But more importantly, we wanted to keep our message consistent. We asked our customers to make sure they place lids back on containers and caps back on bottles. And we want to make sure that message was still the same. Otherwise, what we found is it causes more confusion or inconsistency, just leads to confusion, and people just don't recycle if they get the impression it's just too difficult to do. So that was really important to us that we did show that lid on there on our paper cups. Next slide, please. So also part of it is we wanted to, again, go back to those graphics going into the recycle cart. We wanted to emphasize an empty and loose in the cart message. We've been doing that with the other recyclables, so we wanted to make sure we're pressing that through with this. And then also on those images, we wanted to show those other items besides the paper cups that we would be able to accept. Again, we've been doing it prior, but this gave us the opportunity to really shout it out more than just covering it when we had a one-on-one with our customer base. And as you can see, leaving the lids on, that's our character, Mr. Murph. He is our education mascot in the area. So everybody, usually when they're used to seeing anything out there, they see Mr. Murph, that's the character. So they know exactly that it's talking about recycling here in Tulsa. Also, the other thing is a lot of our municipal customers, we are tagging each other on our social media. So websites and Facebooks and Instagram. So what's happening there is anything that we're posting out there, they are pushing out to residents as well. So we kind of really got an entire area, metro area message that was shouted out when we did our campaign. We also were able to get some news coverage. The most prominent news station here in Tulsa came out and did an interview, gave us quite a bit of time on that TV news at 6 o'clock. They showed it again at 10 o'clock. So we got great coverage with that. We had the samples out there. We referenced back our websites and what we are doing. So we were really, really pleased to be able to get some TV coverage from there, as well as all in our social media sites. Next slide, please. And then also, once we clicked on that image, this is just a snapshot of a Q&A that our customers could go to. And the purpose on our website is to make it quick and easy for people to access the information they're looking for. Because we felt that once a person is willing to take the time to look something up and recycle right, we wanted to, appreciate their time and get them that information as quick as possible. So a lot of ours is visual, but it's also click when they want to get more specific. And Maggie's group, again, we worked on a lot of FAQs that we could post on there to give people information that wanted more, to know even more. Next slide, please. And the final thing that was important to us, because we have such a large manufacturing sector in Oklahoma that uses the recyclables to produce packaging or a product that goes into this packaging that they're producing, even in some cases, we wanted to let people know how that whole loop closed around. And again, Maggie's graphics group did a great job. We've got our recycle cart down there in our communities, and also our recycle bin that's throughout the Tulsa metro area that people can relate to. And then we added a little more verbiage here, obviously, and it was more informational, but they could see the products that were being made. And that's really important to our customer base here. They'd like to know the recyclables, what they're being used and made back into. Again, because of our rich environment, or manufacturing environment that uses the recyclables, a lot of our customers love to know this information. We wanted to make sure where they could go back to, but as you can see here, graphics, again, we used quite a bit of it from there. And that is all that I have.
Great. Thanks, Robert. I am going to actually pass things back to Maggie. Brianna was unable to join us, so Maggie, since she worked very closely with Brianna on her program and experience, is going to cover Brianna's section of our webinar. So thanks, Maggie.
Yeah, thanks, Natha. We can go to the next slide. Provide a little bit of background on our partnership with Groot. So we partnered with them in March to successfully incorporate paper cups into the recycling stream in Chicagoland. And so in order to get the word out, we needed to be creative and have like a multi-pronged approach on how we were gonna reach residents and make sure they were aware of this addition. So we'll go to the next slide and zoom in a little bit more on what sorts of things we did. So first, we wanted to make sure we met residents where they were. Not everyone was following Groot's social media page, so we wanted to make sure we diversified our approach and make sure to engage as many people as possible and keep those communications engaging and visual. Take advantage of those community partnerships that I referenced in my section on leveraging those networks. And like I said, track and measuring our success along the way. So say what you will about Facebook's flaws, but everyone is still scrolling. And so Groot pushed out some social media posts through Facebook and got a lot of great traction on there. The biggest hit for Groot was this video that we customized for them, and it got 5,200 impressions and 3,900 views. So the next slide shows that video. We can share that if we have time. Melissa, I think you might have to reshare with sound.
Even more. You can now recycle even more. Next time you enjoy a takeout meal at home, recycle your pizza boxes, cups, and containers. Items should be clean and empty. Please drain all liquid and get rid of any leftover food before recycling. Some items may be too messy to recycle. If in doubt, throw it out. When you're ready to recycle at the curb, place all items loose in your recycling container. No trash bags, please. Your recyclables, including those takeout cups and containers, are ready to roll.
Yeah, so that video is available for our partners to use. We've done it for a lot of our community partnerships. It's that last right there that we customize as we work with them. So this next slide here, it talks about the relationships that Groot had within the community, that they were able to push some more messaging out. So with local waste organizations, townships, and even news media that spread the word through more than just whatever Groot had at hand. This is the Groot recycling flyer that they updated to promote paper cups. the group found that folks generally want to recycle correctly. They just sometimes need a little bit of guidance. So we made sure to use clear instructions that were paired with eye-catching visuals, like the ones you see in the flyer here. We utilized everything we had in our hands to get messaging out to residents. So Group has this waste recollect app that shares notifications to their customers. Over 108,000 of their customers use the app, so they were able to push messaging out on the campaign through there. We worked with Groot to draft a press release that they pushed out to local media to garner some more attention within the community. And, the hope is that as residents come across the article, that they then go to Groot's website to get more information and learn what other items they can recycle and the correct way to do it. And then I mentioned that as we work with community partners, we'll do a pre and post campaign awareness survey. And so this is part of the post-campaign survey that we did with Groot. So one of the questions that was insightful from Groot was, how did you hear about the paper cup announcements? You can kind of see here, of all the tactics that we used, it was pretty spread out. So it was great to see like this multi-prong approach was very effective in reaching all of the residents that Groot had. And I think this is the last slide here, just some overall results. You can kind of see here this increase in people being aware if paper cups are recyclable, if pizza boxes are recyclable, and overall participation of recycling. So one really interesting thing that Group mentioned with their pizza boxes is, our campaign really focused on paper cups, but, we include messaging on other acceptable food service packaging. But it was interesting that they saw a 10% increase in pizza box recovery. And it wasn't even like the focus of our campaign particularly, but just including some of those items and other graphics that we did let residents know, oh, I can, recycle my pizza box. So that was great to see there. And I think that's the last slide that Brianna included. So I think we can go to questions.
Okay, I am shuffling here. I just finished putting 2 answers in the chat to address a couple of our larger questions, but just as a reminder to everyone, we are focused on residential recycling. And in fact, I can turn on my camera. Thanks, Maggie, for reminding me. I think actually we're all going to turn on our cameras so that you can address any questions to all of us. But we have been working with residential on recycling of food service packaging, because when we looked at food service packaging, we found most of it was going back to the homes. And that was a great place to collect it because we have the infrastructure readily available. People in the home, consumers in the home, treat their food service packaging items very similarly, if not the same, to the food packaging items that they're already commonly recycling. So, and the other question was around where did the materials end up? We want to do everything we can to prevent those items from ending up in landfill. So therefore, there is a wealth of due diligence that's conducted prior to with our community partners to make sure we're working in a demand pull situation where there are end markets. And I believe Robert addressed this. There is an end market readily available that is then connected through the MRF and then back through the community. Is this available everywhere all the time? No. But we're doing our best to connect end markets with MRFs and communities. And that's one of the reasons why our work it's been 12 years now. And this has been a slow process for us because we want to do that homework to make sure that this is really working and that we aren't creating situations where greenwashing or just putting our materials in landfill is an acceptable behavior. So trying to walk the walk as best we can all the time. So with that, I have some questions here. I'm kind of a bit of a paper mess. Catherine, why don't we start with you since you were the beginning and our first presenter. How do the resident messaging survey results shape FPI's messages? Oh, Catherine, you're on mute.
Yeah, thanks. As I mentioned early on, the original survey was what guided us when we were deciding what terms to use. So things like learning that, the term clamshell, maybe the industry uses that, but residents don't know what that means. And so that informed our selection of terms, like takeout containers and what we call different items in the resident messaging. We tested different phrases to prevent contamination, and that's how we landed at clean and empty rather than mentioning food soiling and other terms like that. We tested different layouts. We used the results to inform kind of how we group the items and what kinds of layouts we use on our graphics. Building on that, the newer survey gives some insight on terminology, again, referencing material. So for example, we might use paper cups rather than coffee cups when we talk about those items. And also looking at targeting certain demographics that might need more frequent reminders to recycle, or where awareness may not be as great, identifying where there's things that residents are uncertain about that we might need to clear up with additional messaging.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. I think we have one minute left here. And I saw that both in the chat and that in the Q&A, there was a question about the poly coated lining that's in the inside of paper cups. There was a question about what the problem is with the polyethylene coating or whatever the poly material is that's lining the inside of the cup. Catherine, can I ask you to field that one for us too very quickly? Or you want me to do it?
So we work with a whole range of mills, and I put a link in the chat because someone was asking about end markets. There's a growing number of mills that have confirmed that they can handle and process and recover paper cups effectively. We are continuing to do due diligence with other mills who are not yet on that list, and also to look at greater opportunities to recycle all the fractions of the cup. But that's a work in progress that FPI is continuing to engage with the paper industry on.
I apologize that we are very short on time today. I think you saw 5 wonderful presenters on this material. Please don't hesitate to reach out to FPI or RRS or any of our community partners who have joined us today. And more information will be posted. The slides will be shared, as it was mentioned, both in the Q&A and the chat. And we thank you all for your time this afternoon.